It's now 5:15, and we're going to give you an update of that breaking news that we were talking about at the earlier part of the show tonight. Rich Nye has been out at the Community Justice Center tonight for that sentencing of Elliahs Dorsey in the 2020 death of IMPD Officer Breann Leath.
Yeah, we want to take Rich live now, or let's listen in.
Sent to the Department of Correction so that the mental health professionals there will have access to that information. So I wanted to make sure that I took care of that first. When the court looks at sentencing, the court has to look at aggravating and mitigating circumstances for each one of the offenses here. The court would note that first, right off the bat, I just want to be right up front, as I would tell any victim's family or anyone, the sentence the court imposes never has to deal with the value of the life of the victims. That's not what the law provides. Nothing would be, no sentence, no number of years would be adequately express the amount of loss and the amount of grief that you feel. It doesn't matter whether it's 2 years or 200 years. You've lost a life. You've lost all of those things that so many of you have testified so eloquently today. And you need to understand that the law provides certain ranges for penalties, and I am punishing actions. And I will talk to the defendant about that when I get to him, but I am not punishing a defendant. I am punishing your actions. When we started it, you may recall when we started the trial, when I first talked to the jurors, from our own life experiences, we know that bad people can do good things, good people can do bad things. What's happened here is not a reflection on you as a person. It's a reflection on the criminal actions that you did. It doesn't make you a good or a bad person. It's a punishment of your actions. And so I want to be clear about that. The penalty for the reckless homicide charge is 6 years. The maximum penalty. The maximum penalty for the officers in terms of the criminal recklessness charges are 2.5 years. I want to be clear that I think as a matter of practicality, and I think as a matter of law, that the 3 officers that were fired at, all of their counts, I think under the law would need to run concurrently, and would need to run concurrently with the loss of Officer Leath. That I think under the circumstances, if the defendant had been in an open field, in an open area, and knew that he was having a shootout with 4 or 5 people, it would be clear that there were 4 or 5 different victims that the defendant was conscious of, he was aware of, he was intending to victimize. Here you have a situation where the defendant is firing through a closed door and has no idea whether there are 4 people on the other side of the door or whether there are 50 people on the other side of the door. If I'm punishing criminal actions, if I'm punishing criminal intent, what I'm punishing is the firing through the door, not the number of people who just happen to be on the other side. That doesn't trivialize in any way those 3 officers that were there. One can't be struck any more than all of these people were heroes. All of these people have suffered in terms of their families. Being in law enforcement in one way or another, either in my previous career, 21 years as a prosecutor doing murder cases, or 24 years on the bench, most of them doing murder cases. Hardly an unfamiliar area to me in terms of death, suffering. But it's not very often that I have an opportunity to watch officers get on the stand and cry. And to feel the emotion of the loss that they feel and the dedication that we as a community take for granted. Because these people put their lives on the line for us every day. They put the lives on the line even when they're outgunned out on the streets. And that, over the years, that concerns me greatly. That we have allowed streets to be filled with kids, the secondary market of AR-15s and machine guns, all types of weapons in which the police are outgunned. And we sit there and say that somehow that's because there's a constitutional right to do that. No one talked about that when I started my career as a prosecutor in the early 80s. No one would have said with a straight face that you had a constitutional right to a machine gun. And yet, our police officers every day are faced in situations in which the bad guys have more weaponry than they do. And the only solution we can come up with so far is the idea that, well, we should give the police more weaponry. That just doesn't work. Now, that isn't this particular case. And I want to be clear that I'm not picking on the defendant's weapon. But I am saying that it is so difficult to be a police officer and to see these officers cry and to have this sense of emotion and dedication to their brother officers is a reminder of how much they do protect and serve us. And I want to make sure that they understand that when I say that I'm not giving additional time because of the crime in which they were a victim, it's not because I don't understand. It's not because I don't sympathize. It's just simply, as I explained with the law, that I'm punishing a criminal act, and I don't believe this defendant had the slightest idea who was on the other side or how many people were on the other side. And so it is I believe as a practical matter and frankly as a matter of law, that the sentence for the three officers being victims and Officer Leath, that those counts run concurrently with each other. But again, I'm so mindful that I had three officers. Only one of them could get up on the stand and tell me today what it means to them. The other one was clearly, I felt so sorry for when he was testifying, because it was clear he wasn't even able to stay in his career anymore, that this act was so devastating that he couldn't stay on the force. I can only guess that the third officer probably felt the same way, and the reason why they couldn't take the stand today. But we all lose as a community. I think the lawyers have tried in talking about the law and talking about criminality and talking what's a legal defense and when they've not. They've tried very hard to emphasize that no one is suggesting at all that Officer Leath or the officers were wrong here, or that they weren't heroes. They absolutely were. And we are all diminished by their loss and by their sacrifice. And so there just isn't anything more to say about that. We honor them as a community. Oftentimes, we vilify the police for some of the things that they have to do. But this wasn't one of those situations in terms of this family. I see a lot of families that come in every day that have absolutely no respect for law enforcement, have no respect for the police department. This was not that family, and this was not that situation. And so it's still very difficult, because you have two sides that clearly have been torn apart. The victims' families have suffered tremendously, as all victims' families do when they come in, when there are homicides in the family. You have grief, you have distrust of the system, of the lawyers, of the law. You're struggling to deal with your emotions. I know this all too well, having seen it for now almost 45 years. All I can tell you is that my experience.
And you have been
tells-
listening live now. That is the judge going over the sentencing for Elliahs Dorsey, the man who has been found guilty with the killing of Officer Breann Leath.
Right, he was found guilty of reckless homicide, but mentally ill for that shooting in 2020. She was just 24 years old and had a little boy named Zane. So there's a lot of emotion about the loss of that young life, this officer for our community. We are continuing to monitor that sentencing, and you can watch the streaming online right now at WTHR.com. We will be right back.